and welcome to Health Management Voices, the podcast series brought to you by the European Health Management Association, EHMA. This series is dedicated to supporting researchers, PhD students, early career academics, and health management professionals in getting the most out of the European Health Management Conference. Today's episode is all about one of the most important steps in the journey to the conference, which is preparing and submitting a high-quality abstract. We will explore practical tips, common challenges, and we will also get some expert advice on how to craft a compelling abstract that stands out and to improve, therefore, your chances of being selected for presentation at the European Health Management Conference. And to guide us through all of these, I'm very pleased to have with me today a special guest, which is Dr. Marius Ungureanu. He is Associate Professor and Chair at the Department of Public Health at Babeș-Bolyai University, and he's also a member of the EHMA board. Marius has reviewed for sure hundreds of abstracts from the EHMA conference, but also from other conferences. He probably has submitted many more, and he has helped his collaborator and students to submit probably another few hundred others. So I'm really pleased to have him here and to have his insight on what makes an excellent submission. Marius, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Federica, for the invitation.
Marius, the first probably question that I think it's very important to address is why? So why submitting an abstract at any conferences, but especially why do you think it's important to submit an abstract at the European Health Management Conference?
That's an excellent question to start with, as a matter of fact, Federica, because in my experience of more than 15 years working together and collaborating with the European Health Management Association and also attending the European Health Management conferences, I have realized how important it is to not only conduct excellent research, but also to be able to present it to wider audiences, to engage in dialogue with colleagues in other countries, maybe from different disciplines, because I truly believe that the quality of our research and furthermore, the quality of what can be implemented based on that research can only be enriched in such environments. So I believe that apart from, the regular reasons for which we submit abstracts to participate in conferences, like, maybe to check some responsibilities with regards to the funders or maybe to criteria for our academic responsibilities, I believe that it is exposure to wider audiences and the possibility to network with researchers, with policymakers, with professionals, with similar and complementary interests that can then our further research.
Perfect. Thank you. And Marius, there is also another question that I want to ask you because, of course, it's important to submit an abstract, but most importantly, it's also important to submit an abstract that can be then selected. So you have reviewed for sure many submissions. You have done it for the European Health Management Conference. I'm sure you are a reviewer for many other conferences. So what would you say that really are the elements that make an abstract stand out from the other and stand out in the eyes of a reviewer?
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Federica. I believe that whenever I'm looking at an abstract, there are a couple of things that I appreciate in an abstract, and I will mention them in a random order. But one of them that I would really like to begin with, particularly for the audience, for our audience, particularly for people who are engaged or who want to be engaged with the European Health Management Association, or maybe are considering attending European Health Management Conference, and that is the link between the research that the researchers are considering submitting as an abstract and other components like practice applications, like policy implications. Because in my experience, in over 15 years of conducting research and participating in conferences, I have seen that we have this tendency to be in our ivory tower, be it academia or conference. But if we want to really contribute to some change in the practice or in the policy-making process, then we need to make sure that our research is easily understandable and then easily applicable by those who are practitioners or by those who are policymakers. So I would say that the first and foremost thing that I'm looking at an abstract is to see, apart from the quality of research itself, what is the link with the practice? What is the link with the policy-making process? And then another thing that I am looking at the abstract is the way in which it is framed based on what we currently know. Because I have seen abstracts which had a really excellent quality in reporting on the findings that they had, or the pilots or projects, but not having a slightly broader perspective and linking to the advances in the field or linking to other research, maybe in other settings. Because I'm also looking at an abstract when I'm reviewing it, I'm looking with the eyes of the audience. And then the question that I'm asking myself every time I'm reviewing an abstract is, okay, if this will be accepted, what will be the added value for the audience in the European Health Management Conference? So my task as a reviewer is not only to, give grades to abstracts submitted, but also to have in mind the interest of the audience of the European Health Management Conference.
Yeah, that's a great point, Marius. And I think that there is another point that I'd like to tackle with you, because sometimes also researchers, especially younger researchers or PhD students, they also feel like their work is not ready to be presented at a conference. And so they then end up not submitting their work because they feel like, they should have more results or they should have more data. Etc., etc. It is also true that, for example, our conference offers different submission options. So it's a poster or a scientific dialogue, which is specifically for those that don't yet have results, or, of course, an oral presentation. What would be your advice for the submitters in terms of also the selection of the type of format to present?
This is an excellent point, Federica. And I remember at the beginning of my career, I found myself in a similar place many times, working on a very interesting project, but not having full data at the point of submission. And it is usually a pity, particularly if you have conferences which are happening, maybe once every year, every other year. They're not in the same year. So it might seem like a missed opportunity. And I'm very glad that you mentioned about the scientific dialogues, because this is one of the things that I particularly appreciate at the European Health Management Conference, and something that I would encourage particularly young researchers to take advantage of. Because in scientific dialogues, we are not only looking at projects or findings for which we have all of the data, but also research which is in progress. And it's funny because just the other day, I was discussing with one of our Master of Public Health students, and she was telling me this, because she is a second-year master student, she will not have all of her data collected by January 11th, when we have the deadline for the submissions, because the dissertation will be defended in the summer. And so I told her, look, this is an excellent research topic. You will have some results. So I really encourage you to submit, because there's this way of submitting as a scientific dialogue. And then some other advantage that I want to mention, Federica, is that simply going through the process of crafting the abstract and then further improving it, fine-tuning it, and then going through the review process is a lesson in itself. So worst case scenario, if your abstract does not get accepted, that will be a lesson in itself. And the next time you plan to submit, you will only get better at crafting a better abstract.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point, Marius. I think that there is a learning with the submission process itself. So absolutely a great point there. And the other thing that I wanted to ask you is also about posters, because of course the big incentive for a lot of especially established researchers is to present their work orally during the conference in a session, but we also have posters, which are another great way of presenting research. So what are the advantages of a poster in your view?
When I was at the beginning of my career, Federica, I have to confess that I was kind of ranking the type of presentation and giving much higher value to, for instance, oral presentations and less value to poster presentations. But with time, I realized that in fact, in terms of disseminating the knowledge that you got through your research, they might be similar in the opportunities to do that, because let's not forget, if you presented a poster, you can link the abstract to your Google Scholar profile or other social media profiles, or maybe ResearchGate. So that is not a wasted opportunity. And second, which I believe is even more important, let's be honest and recognize that an oral presentation is only taking place in a specific time. It might be a 50-minute session or a 1-hour session, and you are only speaking to the audience that is attending that specific session. And with the fact that sometimes we might have parallel sessions, it can be, I don't know, maybe 20, 30, 50 people. But if you have a poster, they are generally displayed throughout the 3 or 4 days of conference, which means that your audience is a lot bigger. And if you are presenting your poster and if you are standing by your poster, you have the chance to also engage with participants in the conference who visit. You can provide answers. They might have questions, and you can also establish new contacts, because scientific conferences, and the European Health Management Conference is a master at this. It's not only about presenting our research, but it's also about networking opportunities. And so in that regard, I believe poster presentations are an excellent, maybe better placed to help with our networking opportunities than oral presentations.
Yeah, that's, again, it's another great point. And we, of course, encourage all our submitters to consider all the different submission opportunities, so oral presentation, scientific dialogue, and posters. And the other thing, Marius, that I wanted to ask you is about the conference theme. So, of course, it is a criteria in terms of the evaluation to make sure that the abstract are reflective or connected with the conference theme. And for next year conference, the theme is Future-Proofing Health System for a Changing World, from Strategy to Action. So, in a sense, what would be your advice to make sure that submitters have this connection with the theme, and how can they make sure that their abstract fits well within the focus of next year conference?
That's a great point, Federica. And there are 2 things that I want to mention. There's one thing that I waited to mention, and there was a place in other questions, but I will mention it here. But let me start with something else. First of all, it's the theme of the conference, which is broad enough because it's about future-proofing, it's about health systems, it's about the future of health systems, it's about transformation from strategy to implementation. So these are broad aspects. And I believe this is reflective of the kind of changes that we're seeing with our health systems, because complexity is increasing. And so our approaches need to be complex, need to be complementary. And so I believe that from that perspective, it might in fact be easier to fit the kind of research that someone is doing within one of the tracks of the conference. But the second thing that I wanted to keep on mentioning is the importance of linking with fellow researchers, maybe more senior researchers, and also the importance of mentorship. Because if we're speaking of early career researchers, I believe it is really essential to have a mentor, to have someone who is familiar with the association, to have someone who is familiar with the conference. And in the past years, I believe the European Health Management Conference has been a great place to see master's students, to see PhD students, maybe to see early career researchers. As a matter of fact, I feel quite old at the conference, Federica, too. And I believe this is a good thing, because the conference is appealing to early career researchers. And I strongly believe in the power of mentorship. And I believe that another element that early career researchers need to take into account is to have this conversation with their mentors with regards to how to best, fit their research, or how to, what angle from their research to look at in order for it to align with the conference theme and objectives.
Super. And Marius, to go a little bit back to something that you mentioned before, which is the review process. Of course, in the call for abstract page on our website, we do list what are the criteria that the reviewers follow. I think that it's important to mention to our audience that the review process is a blind process. So each abstract is reviewed by 3 people, And of course, these three people are selected not to have any conflict of interest with the work that is presented. And these three reviewers then assess the state of completion of the paper, the novelty, the advancement in the field, the quality, and the relevance. Can you give a little bit your insight on how to tackle possibly each and every one of these criteria the best?
Yeah, indeed. From the perspective of a submitter, this might look like a black box. What we're doing there as reviewers, but as you rightly mentioned, I believe that as a potential submitter, they need to really look at the information that we have on the abstract submission page, because really that is what is guiding our evaluation process. And I have to say that I don't have very much to to advise other than that. But there's something else that I want to add to this conversation, and that I want to encourage even early career submitters, and that is that after they're finishing their abstract, something that they can do is to put aside the hat of a researcher and then put the hat of reviewer. So I would encourage them to do this little exercise, blinding their names and working in a scenario which would be something like, okay, I'm the reviewer, I have received this abstract, and these are the criteria, and these are the guidelines. How would I go through reviewing this abstract? And in my experience, this also helped me a lot. It also helps with scientific manuscripts, because some of us are authors. We also are reviewers for other papers. We are also having editorial responsibilities. And I believe that if we change these hats and look to our abstracts with fresh eyes, with a different perspective, and I believe there might be some really good insight in that. And the second thing that I would say that maybe would be helpful for that, to unpack this black box, is that I would encourage everyone to volunteer in other settings, maybe, or in other conferences, to volunteer as junior reviewers. Some conferences are doing this, or maybe some exercises within their schools, but I would really advise to do that. It just comes with the experience, and the more we're doing it, the more our own insights as authors will improve.
Thank you, Marius. I mean, I absolutely second that. This year, I've actually acted as a reviewer for another conference, and for me, it was a very great learning experience, because I could really go through criteria by criteria and then assess each of the abstract against it. And it's something that probably, as I was reflecting on the work that I was doing, I'm not sure if when we submit an abstract, we do the same thinking process. So what you gave is a very good tip, which is really think critically at what you've written in light of the criteria. And I think, Marius, I'd like to conclude with something very practical. So if one of your students would come to you tomorrow and tell you, I'm thinking about submitting an abstract to the European Health Management Conference, what would be your top 3 tips, actionable, technical, conceptual, whatever, but top 3 tips that you would give them?
Thanks. I really like practical things, Federica. Thanks for that question. So my first question, the first thing that I would do is tell them, excellent idea, really congratulations for this decision, and just do it. Go for it. You have to submit. Second would be to offer my expertise and my guidance and say, look, when you have a full draft of the abstract, come to me. I'm more than happy to help you review it, or go to one of my colleagues, or go find someone else, be it a mentor or a more senior colleague. Try to ask them to review, because the quality will only improve after you have a review from someone who is more senior than you. And third thing would be, maybe may I distort a little bit and add maybe for the third one to go on 2 separate paths. If the paper has been accepted, if the abstract has been accepted, I would just say make the best of the conference in terms of scientific discussion, in terms of networking. However, if it doesn't get accepted from the first attempt, do not discourage. Try to see what are the lessons in that, try to see what the feedback of reviewers were, and try to improve it. and do not abandon the idea of submitting and attending a conference.
Thank you so much, Marius. And I think that this discussion really reiterates what we try to convey to our audience today, and in general to the participants and potential future participants of the conference, which is just try it out. It's an important platform. You can really make a difference with your abstract. You may feel like you're not ready yet, but give it a try. There is some learning in the process itself. And very important, read carefully the guidelines. So don't go, if you're a, let's say, experienced submitter, don't just go by memory, but really, assess critically the different abstracts, the different criteria for abstracts review, and then just submit and enjoy the conference without forgetting that there are different submission opportunities, either as oral presentation, as scientific dialogue, and as poster. So Marius, in thanking you very much for your time today, I would like to remind our audience that they can submit the abstract until the 11th of January. They can find all the information on the website, which is ehmaconference.org, EHMA conference.org. And Marius, I think we are left to say that me and you certainly going to see each other earlier, but with all the other listeners, we are going hopefully to see each other in Barcelona 10 to 12th of June. And we are going to have a fantastic conference under the Barcelona sun.
Thank you so much, Federica. Indeed, as you said, I'm looking forward to meeting soon. And in any case, to meet as many people as possible in beautiful Barcelona for the next edition of the European Health Management Conference. And thank you for this conversation. Hopefully it will serve as guidance and help to as many early career researchers as possible.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marius. And thank you so much to all our listeners. And we're going to talk to the next Health Management Voices podcast.